Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Representatives Camper, Crawford, Darby, Faison, Farmer, Grills, Hakeem, Hicks, Shaw, Williams, Chairman Lamberth.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you for those in the audience and maybe viewing us online. We have several rules submissions that have been made today, and I'm going to recognize Leader Camper first. She has submitted several. And members, if you don't mind, there are several that have been submitted by different members. Can you, if you don't mind, just kind of describe all of yours, and then if they're different submissions, it's up to the member as to whether or not you just let us know if you want us to vote on them one at a time or as a package. But if you can, I'll recognize Leader Camper at this time to describe the rule submissions that you have tendered for consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members, I have two that I'm recommending, and I would like for them to be voted upon separately. Make that clear up front. Yes, sir. Okay. So, Mr. Chairman and committee, one of the rule changes that I'm offering goes to, Jim, goes to Rule 21. I remember a time when the rules reflected an opportunity for us to have 15 minutes as a person on the floor discussing and debating these very important issues. And the rule was changed to reduce that to 5. And so what I've observed since going to this 5 minutes is it's impeding real dialogue back and forth, in my opinion. It's gotten to a place where people are just talking about an issue and watching the clock to make sure that they get everything in before. But when we had a time limit of 15 minutes, we really never used the 15 minutes. You ask your question, the sponsor answer, you ask a follow-on, sponsor answer, and it was real true dialogue, understanding of the issue before us. So I would like to have that rule changed back from the 5-minute time limit we have now to the 15 minutes. That's the first one.
Thank you, Madam Leader. And if you want to, again, just go ahead and describe your other one as well.
I'll do it. Mr. Chairman, members, the next one is Rule 44. Has to do with filing of bills for introduction. Subparagraph D. Subparagraph 1 under that. And this has to do with the bill limits. So right now we have 15 bills per member. When I got here, it was unlimited. And most people still never did all of those bills, but that's what it was. It was unlimited. And then we were reduced down to 15, and the Senate is still unlimited. And to some degree, it created this imbalance in both the Senate and the House, of, equal branches, equal chambers. And so we're at the 15. What I would like to see us do as a body, oftentimes each caucus will have agenda that their caucus want to achieve and get done. And this would offer us an opportunity as the majority leader, minority leader to both have an additional 5. Similarly, we have our committee chairs who, serve their committees, and there are things going on within their committees. They have an additional 5 right now. And so I'm proposing that we change that to read, no member may file more than 15 bills during each annual session of the General Assembly, except that the majority leader, majority caucus chair, and minority caucus chair may file an additional 5 bills. And the chair, and it goes on to say that the chairs also have 5. So that's the second one that I would like for us to consider.
All right. Members,
that's
you've heard
all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I apologize, Madam.
That's all right.
Members, you've heard the 2 submissions from Leader Camper. Any questions or discussion on item 1, the proposed rule change to 21? All right, seeing none, we'll be voting on rule change. I'll consider this the first submission. So I've just numbered it 1 at the top of my page that amends Rule 21. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Nay. Nays have it. Sorry, Leader, that one fails. We'll
Thank
be voting
you,
on
Mr.
this.
Chairman and committee.
Thank you, Madam Leader. So this is the second submission by Leader Camper. You've heard the description of it. Members, do we have any discussion on this particular submission? All right, seeing none, we'll be voting on, and I've labeled this just kind of item number 2, and it is submitted by Leader Camper. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Nays have it. Sorry, Leader, that one was not successful.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. and
Thank you,
committee.
Madam Leader. So at this juncture, we have Chairman Clemens is here and has submitted several. And Chairman, if you can, just approach the microphone there at the podium. And I have what appears to be 6 submissions. 7, excuse me. There's probably 2 pages here stuck together for mine. If you can, just as we just did, if you don't mind, just describe all of those for us, and then let me know afterwards if you'd like to vote on those individually or as a group. It's just really whatever you'd like to do. So, Chairman Clemens.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and Leader and committee. I've got 7 proposed rule amendments here. They're each numbered. You can see there in the subject line of each. I went ahead and numbered them for you. And so would you like to vote? I'd like to have them voted on individually. Or would you like to vote after each explanation?
If you don't mind, you have the floor. Just go ahead and describe them all, and then we can discuss each one prior to voting on them. But just while you have the floor, if you don't mind, just kind of run down each one with us and tell us about each one. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So rule amendment number 1 concerns rule number 19. This is titled transgression of rules by member. I have left the rule intact, save I deleted the last 2 paragraphs there of the existing rule, which regards the members being called to order a second time on the same legislative day, being limited to 2 minutes, and then being further limited for the remainder of that day or the next legislative day. So I just went ahead. Those were the amendments that we put in place, I believe, last January to the then existing rules. So I went ahead and deleted those 2 paragraphs, leaving Rule 19 as it was when we originally adopted Rule 19 in January of 2023. Proposed rule amendment number 2 there concerns rule number 21, as my leaders sought to amend that as well. This simply deletes the last 2 sentences of the existing rule, which had also been amended last year. And this amendment would allow each member 5 minutes in discussion, but does not count the time expended by the bill sponsor against them. So the person standing up to question the bill sponsor or speaking on the bill would consume that 5 minutes, whereas the person in the well could not consume 4 minutes and 50 seconds with an answer. And so that's how that one is amended. Proposed rule amendment number 3 is rule number 22. Rule number 22 is persons admitted on the floor of the House. The only way I suggested an amendment to rule number 22 was to make an exception for immediate family members. Hopefully, and I know that we do have members with young children. Childcare is an issue. Sometimes members have babies if they have to come over in a joint session or in a or on the House floor. And I think that mothers should be able to allow to bring their children, their minor children, onto the floor with them without being prohibited from doing so. Or if my children get out of school and want to come up here and see how the government works, I think that I or any of you should be able to bring your children onto the House floor to watch our government in action. I think that would be beneficial to them, and that's certainly a privilege we should enjoy. And that was proposed rule amendment number 3. Proposed rule amendment number 4 concerns rule number 34, which is the division of a question in debate. The current rule, as it's written, has a semicolon after which we're prohibited from dividing the question on third and final consideration. Third and final consideration is when we're on the House floor to vote on that bill. I think we should be able to, as a body, divide the question. For instance, if we were to bring an omnibus bill during the regular session that dealt with flood relief for the victims of Northeast Tennessee and Hurricane Helene, and it was combined with a bill for vouchers or any bill, I think we should be able to divide that question. I don't think members should have to vote on one or the
Chairman,
other.
out of respect for you, audience members, please, it is an observation to come in and observe the committee. It's not participatory. If you continue to call out while he's presenting, you'll be asked to leave, and I really don't want to do that. Let's please respect the presenter, regardless of who it is, whether you agree or disagree with him. Just please respect him and allow him to make the presentation, okay? Thank you.
So that with dividing the question, we should be allowed to do that on the House floor before when it comes up for final vote, Mr. Leader and Chairman. I think that would be fair. It's very difficult to divide the question in the committee process, or especially if we're passing on first or second consideration. As you know, it's more of a cattle call process. Proposed rule amendment number 5 concerns House Rule 44, sub D, sub 1. Now, there's been a lot of rumor about the limiting and what the plans are to limit bill filing this year. I certainly don't know how this committee is going to land. That's your prerogative. But so I introduced 2 different amendments to reflect the rumors that I've heard. One, similar to my leaders, limits us to no more than 15 bills, but gives subcommittee chairs an additional 5, and then gives the minority leader and minority caucus chair an additional 5. Because any bill limit that we push, right, if it's 20, if it's 15, if it's 12, if it's 10, that limit only applies to the minority party, because your chairs already get extra ones, leadership already gets extra ones. So the only people being limited are really the minority party. So to seek to ensure some semblance of fairness there, I think the leader and I should be able to get 5 additional bills to cover subject areas that are necessary for us. House Rule Amendment number 6, or proposed Rule Amendment number 6, Mr. Leader, is again 44D sub 1. And this just simply changes that bill limit to 12 bills, as has been rumored. Would limit members to 12 bills, but again, gives subcommittee chairs the 5, chairman 5, and gives the leader, minority leader, and minority caucus chair 5 additional bills to address the concerns I spoke about earlier. And my final proposed rule number 7. This is Rule 49. The duties of the Committee on Calendar and Rules concerning the calendar. What I did here is I deleted the whole part that was, again, adopted last year, which allows the leaders and the Calendar and Rules Committee chairman to decide unilaterally how much time we're going to allow for debate on a specific bill. For instance, if we have a big bill coming up, it's going to have a big impact on the state of Tennessee and our citizens. Having a select group of people decide we're only going to allow 30 minutes to debate on this bill, or 20 minutes to debate on this bill, or 2 hours to debate, I don't think that's in the true nature or spirit of what we're up here to do. So I deleted that provision. Otherwise, I left Rule 49 the same. And that concludes my proposed rule amendments, Mr. Chair and Leader. And thank you for your time, committee, and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if you don't mind just staying there, there may be questions or debate from the members of the committee. And so, members, if we can turn back to what I have as the 3rd submission to the committee, and the chairman has under RE, it says proposed rule amendment number 1, and this is an amendment to Rule 19. Are there any questions or debate for the sponsor of this particular amendment at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll be voting. And you did want, Mr. Chairman, you did want these voting on individually, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. All right, so we'll be voting on this. And again, submission number 3. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. No. The noes have it. That one fails, Mr. Chairman. All right. This one is submission number 4 by Chairman Clemens. This amends, and again, it is proposed rule amendment number 2 under the RE section there, and it amends rule number 21. Are there any questions for the sponsor of the rule change? Yes, Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this amendment proposal. How are you seeing this working? So you're the sponsor, you're in the well, you present, I raise my hand, and when I start talking, the 5-minute clock start to roll. And so I have a question, and I ask you a question. And how are you seeing this work?
Chairman Clemens.
So thank you, Leader. Thank you, Chair. So similar to the way that I think it ended up working last year, where the clerk can stop the clock when the person in the well begins to speak. And then once they stop speaking, the clock starts again. We have the technology to do that, as the clerks know and the leader knows. So, and I think the person speaking should be able to get their 5 minutes, whether it be question or otherwise, without having that entirely consumed. Because, you know, we debate matters of import up here, and
Yeah.
I think members should be able to ask as many questions as they have. I mean, granted, within 5 minutes, that's tough sometimes, but nevertheless, I think they should have the best opportunity to do that.
Leader Camper, follow up?
No, that's good. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for this proposed change.
Thank
All
you.
right. Additional questions to, again, submission 4 is what I have it down as. All right. Seeing none, we've been voting on this. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. No. The noes have it. Mr. Chairman, I apologize. That one has failed. At any time, if there's a question as to the ruling of the chair, I'll be happy to take a roll call vote.
Can we
No? Okay.
take a roll call vote on that last one?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. More than happy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on submission 4.
Representatives Camper. Crawford.
No.
Darby.
No.
Faison. Farmer.
No.
Grills.
No.
Hakeem.
Aye.
Hicks.
No.
Shaw.
Yes. Yes.
Williams. Chairman Lamberth.
No.
Mr. Chairman, you have 3 ayes, 8 noes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And seems like my ears are still pretty decent, but always more than happy to take the roll if we need to. I have submission 5 here, which is proposed rule number 3 by Chairman Clement.
That last one, I'm sorry. So that last one was proposed number 2. I think we're number 3.
Yes, we're on, it's the
Oh,
4th
on
one that was
yours.
submitted to the committee.
Oh,
We had
okay.
2 by Leader Camper. That was your second one, and I'm moving on to the 5th submission to the committee. Proposed rule amendment 3 by, it as numbered by Chairman Clemens, the 5th one for the committee. Is that, you good with that? All right, no problem at all. Any questions on this particular amendment? Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll be voting on this. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
No.
The noes have it. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, that one was not successful. Submission 6, which is the 4th one submitted by Chairman Clemens. It has been described already ably by Chairman Clemens. Are there any questions or discussion on this one? Seeing none, we'll be voting on this one. Oh, yes, Chairman Farmer, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and apologize. I caught you on the back end on that. I was just curious, Representative Clemens, on this one, you'd made reference, I think you used the word cattle call with regards to the committee process, and you made reference that it may be harder to address issues in a smaller setting, such as a subcommittee with 8 or 10 members or a full committee with 20 or 25 members versus the House floor vote with 99. Could you elaborate on that a little more?
Chairman Clemens?
Yeah, well, actually, the term cattle call is kind of referencing the auction, you know, that when the leader so ably reads through all the different things on first and second consideration on the House floor, that's a very difficult time to interject to divide the question. I mean, it's pretty hard procedurally to get any debate or anything in. It's not even actually appropriate during that time to do that. So you would have to do it during the committee process, as you know. So going through the committee process, you could have bills and they'd bounce around from committee to committee if they had widely different or just disparate subject matters. So I suspect they'd get re-referred. But even with that, you're going to have a hard time with committee to committee, very different subject areas, splitting that up and dividing the question on final consideration. And so I think from a procedural standpoint, that's where I'm getting at of when is it really practical to do that? And I think the best time to do it is when every member is going to see that on third and final consideration, which is the House floor. Because as you know, bills travel through all the time and neither you nor I actually see them until they get to the House floor, which is why we use amendments a lot of times. Even though they're frowned upon sometimes. So I think third and final consideration would be the appropriate time to divide the question. And it's pretty consistent with the procedural rules of order in other bodies.
Chairman Farmer?
I have no further questions. I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Clemens. And additional discussion or debate on this one? Again, I had this as rule submission number 6. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
No.
The noes have it. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. All right. Madam Clerk, please signify that Representative Shaw is excused for the remainder of the meeting. All right. The seventh submission to the committee, and again, proposed rule amendment number, the fifth one by Chairman Clemens. Do we have any questions or debate on this one? It's already been described by Chairman Clemens. Again, any additional debate or questions on this one? No, seeing none. We'll be voting, and again, it's submission 7. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
No.
The noes have it. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. All right, submission 8, the sixth one submitted by Chairman Clemens. Do we have any discussion or questions for Chairman Clemens? He has described this already, dealing with the number of bills. And I believe this is very similar to the one that Leader Camper had submitted as well, though slightly different. Any questions or debate on this? Seeing none? Oh, Chairman Farmer, yes, please. Yes, sir.
I did again. With regards to this bill, thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Clemens. I do appreciate you bringing this, but when I was first elected, I came in and Beth Harwell was speaker, and she put a bill limit on the General Assembly, I believe, for the first time. Chairman Lamberth was in that class as well. And everybody thought, well, we're not going to be able to have our day on the floor, our day in the committee room, or this, that, and the other. But we found out real quick that it seems like each and every year, each member was well represented and had plenty of bills to move their interests forward of their constituencies, which is what we're here to do. In fact, most members would have bills left over, caption bills that were never amended, which makes it very difficult on the clerk's office and just everybody here, frankly. It backs up the committee process. Committees stay open longer. We waste taxpayer dollars doing that. So still yet, even with a 15, even if we moved it down to 10, I think that certainly the House of Representatives is well represented. The Senate, yeah, they may want to file more bills, but this would also help, I believe, the Senate be more efficient as well. So, and I understand where you're coming from here. And but if we think back, you were here as well when Speaker Harwell did that initially. Now Speaker Sexton has gotten a great idea. We're looking at efficiency here, and we want everybody to have their day in every committee that they can be. And obviously, we want to all end up on the House floor passing good bills with good policy for our constituents. So, respectfully, sir, I'm not going to be able to support this amendment.
Thank you, Chairman Farmer. Chairman Clemens?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the issue is regardless of the cap, and I was here obviously when Speaker Harwell, as you said, to put that cap on. The point is anytime you have a cap, the only party truly capped is the minority party, because as the rule is currently, the chairman of the committees, all of whom are of the majority party, have additional bills. So there's already, no cap there to that extent. And then if there's going to be an additional limit for subcommittee chairs, as rumored, which may or may not happen, again, those are generally, we've had the past couple of years, one subcommittee chairman was a Democrat, but and that may very well happen again this year. I don't know that at this moment in introducing this. So, that is an additional advantage. So really the only people who don't get those extras are the minority party. And so what I did is I felt reasonable, as the leader similarly introduced, give she and I, or whoever replaces us in the future, an additional 5, just to give us, if we have some need that arises, and members, really have more than 15 bills, we use that as necessary. So it's really just trying to reach some semblance of fairness there, in that we're the only ones really being capped.
All right. Yep. Chairman Farmer?
And the only response I'd have to that, if we ever end up in a situation where each member of the majority party and minority party are running and passing all their bills and needing more, then I think that'd be a good time to have a discussion. But right now, I don't think that's the case. So I'm still in position. I'm not able to support your amendment, but I appreciate you bringing it.
Well, I do.
Chairman Clemens?
I do invite you to pass all my bills. I'd love for that to be a problem.
Let's deal with that after February 6th. I think that's the bill filing deadline, if I remember correctly. Is that correct? So we'll deal with all that after February the 6th. Any additional discussion, good back and forth, any additional questions or discussion on this particular, again, this is submission. What I have is number 8, the 6th submission by Chairman Clemens. Seeing none, we'll be voting on this. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Noes have it. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. All right. And I believe this comes to the end of the Chairman John Ray Clemens calendar today. But submission number 9, which is the 7th submission by Chairman Clemens. Do we have any questions for Chairman Clemens or a discussion on this one? Seeing none, to be voting on this. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The noes have it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I believe that is the extent of the ones you have submitted, correct?
It is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee, for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have Representative Jones of Davidson County is up next. We have two Representative Jones down the body, so Jones of Davidson. And if you don't mind, I have several submissions here. It looks like they were submitted all together. If you could just do as the last two presenters and just kind of describe them all, and then they were submitted all together. Would your preference be for us to vote on these all together, or is there some sort of a break between them that you would like them individualized? Representative Jones, this committee has been pretty lenient with everybody else. I mean, it's kind of however you want us to vote on it, be happy to vote on it. So,
So I'll point out the ones as I go that I want to be voted on a roll call vote, and the other ones can be voted all together.
and when you're describing them, if you want to let me know just as you're describing them, tell me, and then I'll make a note on here. And if I mess it up, just let me know and we'll go back and roll call. Okay?
Awesome. Well, it's so great to be back here with you,
As
Lambert.
well. Thank you. Go ahead.
Faison.
You have the floor.
Look forward to working with you all. I think, today's a clear demonstration that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And these rule changes are an opportunity to try and balance the scale a little bit more to ensure real discussion. Obviously, your party talked about these rules before we even got here. And that's why every vote is the same vote. And I'm hoping that some people will vote according to their conscience and not vote according to what their leadership told them to vote. Because some of these bills are about all of us and not just one side minority party, but these are bills that will help all of us do our job as duly elected lawmakers. So the first rule is rule change number 2, strike the phrase "and may speak to points of order in preference to other members," and add "but may not silence or otherwise bar members from speaking." In line 2, the rule should now read in full: should a member find the speaker's conduct or behavior to violate House order and decorum, the member may immediately raise the point of order, at which time the Speaker pro tempore will preside and call for a vote requiring a simple majority of assembled legislators to decide if the Speaker's actions constitute a violation. This rule is to ensure that we are a body that represents that each of us, 99 members, represent the same amount of constituents, and that the Speaker is not here as a king. This is not a palace or a plantation, whatever you want it to be, but this is the people's house, and we each are here as colleagues equally represented. Rule number 2, line 2 shall be amended to strike the word "or lobby" and should read, "shall not have the power to order the same cleared without a supermajority vote of the House members assembled in the chamber or committee." This is again a bill to try and protect the rights of our constituents. The Speaker should not have unilateral authority to order the gallery cleared without all of us voting to say that, do we want our constituents kicked out? Why does he have sole authority? We each should be able to speak for our constituents, because sometimes our guests are there, sometimes our relatives are there, sometimes our friends are there. We should be able to have a vote as to if the gallery is cleared, because those are our people and the people we represent. Rule number 6, line 1 shall be amended to read, "The Speaker shall appoint all committee chairs and vice chairs, but committee membership shall be determined by the leadership of each party, with apportionment being based on chamber distribution. The minority leader may appoint a ranking member on each committee, subcommittee, or special committee." This is to make our process similar to that in Congress. In Congress, the Speaker does not have unilateral authority to appoint committees, but in fact, each party gets to decide what members are serving on a committee. And this will make it so that there's more equity and more discussion amongst us. So perhaps we have, my brother here, Representative Faison, who works, in, I'm trying to think of the correct term, getting rid of rodents and things like that.
Pest control, maybe.
Yes. So maybe he should be, maybe he should serve on agriculture, natural resources, working, because of our specialties. Or we have someone here who, is a lawyer. He can be on civil justice. Or, we have a farmer, my brother here, Tandy Darby, excuse me, it's been a few weeks, is a farmer here. So he definitely should be in agriculture. So we should be able to serve where we have expertise, where we have knowledge. We shouldn't just be told where to serve by the Speaker. We're not here as children. We're here to do the job that's best for our constituents. So we should be able to bring what we have, and we should, our caucuses should decide, okay, you should be on this committee because you have the best experience, the best expertise, and the best background in that. So that's and the ranking member is another issue that comes from Congress. You have a chairman of each committee. There should be a ranking committee member for the minority party on each committee, who can ensure that the minority voices the voices of the minority party are heard, and that there is an equal distribution of discussion and deliberation on that committee. If we continue on, rule number 10 shall be amended to read, "The Speaker shall appoint such House employees, except those who work for individual members or on behalf of a respective caucus. Each member shall be responsible for all hiring decisions in their respective offices." I mean, this is just a basic thing. We should be able to decide who works in our office. The Speaker should not be able to have the power to unilaterally fire our staff members. What we're told is that every staff member in this building works at the pleasure of the Speaker. That doesn't make any sense to me. Each of our offices represent a different constituency, we should have the sole decision-making authority in our offices and not unilaterally the speaker. Do you see a pattern here, how much power we've given to one man, to one person? Question is does this seem like a democracy to you? Going to Rule 19. Rule 19 shall be stricken in its entirety from the Tennessee House of Representatives Permanent Rules of Order. Instead, if you go down, it should be replaced with the following language. Any member who in speaking or otherwise transgresses the rules of the House, the Speaker shall or any member may call such transgressing member to order, in which case the members so called to order may immediately strike their words from the record, withdraw their question or statement, or recant such a statement, or may otherwise continue with the objection of the Speaker or any other member submitted to the record. You all talk about free speech every day. You want free speech when it comes to Twitter. You want free speech when it comes to all these social media platforms, but you don't want free speech when it comes to the chamber, the House of Representatives. It's giving hypocrisy to me. But what we must ensure is that each member should be able to speak for their constituency. We are actually legally protected on the House floor in rules and debate under the Constitution to say what is in line with our district. We have the right to free speech on the House floor that is protected by the Constitution, particularly as members. That the Supreme Court has ruled that on the House floor as members, we have extra privilege to be able to debate without fear of being sued for libel, without being fearful of being sued for any mischaracterization. Because what we're doing is we're doing the best that we can to speak for our constituents. And so that this is a process to ensure order without ensuring arbitrary silencing of members that we saw last session. That was shameful and brought shame to the state on the international stage. Let's not have a repeat, friends. Rule 21 shall be amended, striking, well, this is the rule that you already voted on. I support Leader Camper that we should have 15 minutes, but you already voted on that. So Representative Lamberth, I'll take that one off. Rule 29, the rule shall be amended to lower the threshold from stated 5 to 2. Rule 30, a clause shall be included at the end of the rule stating members may decide the form and style they would like to submit their dissents to the journal and retain all rights and privileges as members over their own speech and written words. So I don't know if you all know this, but we have a right under Article 2, Section 27 of the Tennessee Constitution to dissent from and protest against legislation that is injurious to the people and to have our dissent marked in the Journal of the House. Have you all read that? That's in there. And so what we saw last session was each time I submitted my dissent to our clerk here, Tammy Letzler, Tammy or Daniel, the parliamentarian, would arbitrarily try and restrict some of my words, even words that I'm submitting written, saying this is not relevant or this is not in line with what the bill is about, without even having a vote on it, saying that I could not submit my own words to the House Journal. That is not democracy. If you won't even let us speak on the House floor, if we write our dissent out and submit it as we have a right to do under the state constitution, Article 2, Section 27, the Speaker's clerk and the Speaker's parliamentarian should not have the power to arbitrarily restrict or censor our words from the House Journal. That is absurd. And so if we continue on, Rule 32. The rule shall be amended to lower the threshold from the stated 5 to 2, and that one as well. Rule 35, the clause, members shall not enter any meeting of the House, its committees or subcommittees, joint conventions or joint conventions with props or personal displays of any kind that may be used as a visual aid for advocacy of or opposition to any legislative or political whatsoever shall be stricken from the rule. And this is about accessibility, because how this rule has been interpreted has actually limited our accessibility here. So say we're debating a budget or debating an item of legislation. We can't have anything behind us like they do in Congress that has like a pie chart, that has a graph, that has numbers and data. We can't print anything out. In Congress, I'm sure you all like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She loves using weird prop displays, but she wouldn't be able to do that here. So we have these prop displays, and you're saying we don't want you to be able to, help people who might be even visually impaired, or like me, someone who's a visual learning. So if you're talking, if Lambert's up there talking about all the budget, oh, we're going to do this, let me see the numbers. Let me see the pie chart. Okay, this is how much we're going to give, to privatize our schools, but this is how much the public school is going to retain, or this is how much we're going to give to farmers, and this is how much I just think we should amend this rule so that we can use visual props so we can have visual representations of what we're talking about and make it more easily digestible to our constituents and to our colleagues here. I'm going quickly because I don't know if we have the time limit on this, Lambert. So I'm trying to make my way through.
Representative Jones, you've got as much time as you like. I think you're describing these. I don't want you to feel rushed. There's no other committees after this. We're the only committee today. I wouldn't just take more time than is necessary, but take as much time as you need.
Thank you, Lamberth. And so again, basic visual displays that are allowed in the Senate. I serve on Joint GovOps Committee, and the GovOps Committee, senator wanted to pass around a handout when we were voting there. I think it was about the hemp rules. And in the Senate, they could do that. They say, hold on, the House is here. We can't do that. And they think it's ridiculous. They said the senators can get a handout, but we cannot get it because of our rules. Why are we restricting ourselves? Because we want to just, be punitive against a few members. Rule 74, this rule shall be amended to raise the threshold from the stated 2/3 to 3/4. Rule 82, Section 3 of Article 2 of Rule 82 shall be amended to strike the phrase, unless the representative discloses such information to the Tennessee Ethics Commission in accordance with requirements of Tennessee Code annotated Section 210-128 and Title 8, Chapter 50, Part 5, compliance with the provisions of Tennessee Code annotated Section 210-128 and Title 8, Chapter 50, Part 5 shall constitute compliance with this article regarding disclosure of personal interest, provided that a disclosure filed with the Tennessee Ethics Commission is amended to disclose a new personal interest prior to a member's action and on a matter so interested. Compliance with the provisions of Tennessee Code annotated Section 210-127D shall constitute compliance with this article regarding disclosure of personal interest resulting from a spouse, sibling, or child of the representative who's a registered lobbyist. Now, what is all these numbers? Again, visual display would have helped here. What this provision is talking about is that there's something here. This is an anti-corruption rule. We have a lawmaker in this General Assembly right now who is a lawmaker voting on legislation, and their spouse is a lobbyist who can lobby other members in the General Assembly, get paid, and their husband, you all know who I'm talking about, is a member of the Senate, and his wife is a lobbyist. That is corrupt. That is unethical. That gives the appearance of impropriety. Now, this is a basic anti-corruption one that I hope we can all agree on, that if you have a spouse or a child, they should not be a lobbyist in this building because you can put undue pressure on your colleagues because you're also a member here. That's simple, friends. Rule 85, strike rule from the Tennessee House of Representatives Permanent Rules of Order. And now here's the ones I'm trying to add. The addition of the following rules to the Tennessee House of Representatives Permanent Rules of Order. Let me get some water. Rule 85, and Faison, you voted with me on this one last time. I hope I have your vote, brother. Caucuses may be formed by 3 or more members who consent to a caucus formation. Caucuses are not limited in their scope. It may be partisan or nonpartisan. Members within the caucus may set their own rules and governing functions, including leadership structure and budget. So last session, I submitted a proposal for a conservation caucus. I serve on Ag and Natural Resource Committee. I thought it would be good if members had we have a Veterans Caucus, we have a Black Caucus, we have a Sportsman Caucus where you go hunting together. I thought on Ag Committee it would be good if we went to state parks and we went hiking. We looked at our natural resources, the things that we're trying to protect for future generations. Offering this rule to have a conservation caucus, I didn't even this is the most non-political caucus I could think of, but it's something that I believe in. It's something that I was proud to work on Agriculture Committee, on conservation, preserving our rare and endangered species, fighting to protect our wetlands, fighting to protect our rivers like the Tennessee Duck River, the most biodiverse river in North America. These are things that we have, common interests in. Faison, I don't know if I'll go hunting with you, but if you want to go hiking over there in East Tennessee, I would come. And so I hope, not in the night, but I hope, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. But I hope that, we could create a conservation caucus where we can do things. Like there should not be, again, who has the power to decide if we can have a caucus or not? Let's look at a pattern here, brothers and sisters and friends. The speaker, the minority leader, and the majority leader. I went to our minority leader last year about the conservation caucus. I don't think there was an issue. I went to Representative Lambert. There's no issue. The person who objected and who would not allow this is unilaterally the House Speaker. That should not be the case. We should be able to create caucuses without getting approval. We're not here as children. We're here as colleagues. We should be able to associate how we want and create these common interests how we want, because perhaps that will make a more deliberative and collegial body where we can come in common interest together and collectively get to know each other as people and not just see a letter by each other's name and automatically shut down. That's my hope this session, my friends. Rule 86, firearms policy. No firearms may be permitted in House committee rooms. Firearms in committee rooms, when we are saying we can't bring if this piece of paper was 8 by 11 inches, it would be restricted. But you're telling me I can bring a firearm in here. Doesn't make any sense. And it's actually a danger to all of us. And I hope that as we see, what is happening in our climate, that we can make this a place that we know This is a place we have, you all have the troopers here. There's no reason why people should be bringing firearms here. We had some hate groups here, like the Proud Boys. We had those neo-Nazis out last session. They could, the ones with swastikas, who you all say you're against. I think Lambert has a bill about this. Well, that same bill would still allow them to bring firearms into the Capitol under these House rules. So Lambert has this, it's called the Peace Act. I don't feel peaceful if the Proud Boys can bring guns in here. So if you want to talk about how we can address hate groups and make people feel safer in Tennessee, it's not just that bill, but it's by making sure they can't bring guns into our committee rooms or into our offices. It's very simple. Rule 87, signage. Nothing in these rules herein may be used to prohibit or otherwise prevent 8x11 paper signs or other signage smaller than 8x11 from being used by members of the public in committee rooms or house galleries. Why is a piece of paper more dangerous than a gun? We're still trying to figure that out. And finally, Rule 88, ticket policy. When did we become Willy Wonka? I said, what is going on with these golden tickets last session? We didn't even vote on this. We didn't even have a say on this. We just came one day. I think the clerk and the speaker said, now you have to have a ticket and we each get one for our constituent. So I had a constituent and who wanted to bring their children, but they said you only get one ticket. So that means the parent couldn't come with the children, even though the child is going to be a page, but both parents couldn't come into the gallery. That makes no sense. And so this rule change is saying that Rule 88, ticket policy, nothing in these rules herein may be used to give the speaker unilateral authority to require tickets or any similar restrictive mechanism for members of the public to view the House sessions from the gallery. This is the first time. Now, we had 4 state capitals in Knoxville, in Rutherford County, in Memphis during the Confederacy, and here in Nashville. And never have they had ticket policies to get in the gallery. Out of all the years we've been a state, out of all the years we've been a General Assembly, this is the 114th General Assembly, they have never had tickets to get in the gallery. When they were voting on women's suffrage, when people wanted to fill the galleries wearing yellow roses, they did not have ticket policies. When they were voting to abolish slavery in the state, they did not have a ticket policy, but people came because they said, we want to see government in action, we want to bear witness to history. What is going on with these ticket policies? It is absurd and it is a violation of our citizens' constitutional rights. It is arbitrary and it is a waste of taxpayer dollars. We want to talk about efficiency, stationing somebody outside the House chamber to hold a sign saying, let me check your ticket, and making them do a job they don't want to do because every sergeant at arms does not want to enforce that ticket policy. I think most of us, the Senate doesn't have a ticket policy. The governor's office doesn't have a ticket policy. The city council doesn't have a ticket policy. Not one of your county commissions has a ticket policy, but because the speaker wanted a ticket policy, you all went along with it without even having a vote in the House rules on it. This is to give us a vote on that ticket policy. And with that, I submit these rules one by one. That's a summary of them. And I would like a few of them to be voted on a roll call vote.
And Representative Jones, thank you for that description. You didn't indicate which ones you want to roll call vote. If you want to, if you can let me know just which ones so that
Yeah.
we
Do you
get
want to just go
those.
through the ones I just went through and I'll tell you if I want a roll call vote? Just to be efficient.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
we'll go ahead and start on these then. And then if you want to, as we come to the ones that you want to roll call vote, we'll be happy to let you. That's similar to how we do with bills. So
Okay.
since I asked you to go ahead and describe them all at once, I'll come back to you each time and ask whether or not you want to roll call. On the first one here, which is rule submission number 2, I'll be doing a voice vote on this one unless you're requesting a roll call.
You can do a voice vote.
All right. Any discussion or questions on this particular rule submission? No, seeing none. This is on the page that you have from Representative Jones. It is rule number 2. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
All right, the noes have it. All right, on rule number 4. Rule 4, any questions or discussion? All right, Representative Jones, I'll be doing a voice vote unless there's objection to that.
That can be a voice vote.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
No.
The noes have it. All right, on rule number 6, and this is just going down the page here. Rule number 6, any questions or discussion? Yes, sir, please.
Let me see. I think I'm on. Representative Jones, the ability to have, I guess, more equitability of the number of persons from different parties on that committee are chairing. You see that as an asset to get information out, more questions being asked? What the purpose for that?
Thank you, Representative King. Representative Jones.
Thank you. For that, this is Rule 6 about each party will determine their members on a committee. I think this is something very basic. I think I'm going to be honest. I think Leader Camper knows our members more than the opposing side. And so she knows our strengths, our weaknesses, what are our points of knowledge, what our backgrounds are. And I think she can make a more informed decision on what committees we would be of the best interest of our constituents, because she's taken the time to talk to each of us, to be in conversation with each of us. So to just ensure that we have people on the committee who, number one, can do the best job on that committee, and number two, who are on the committee that can speak to their interests of what led them here. Each of us come from a different point of entry into the Capitol. And so, this is to ensure that we can be on the committees that can best serve those interests for our constituents. And so this is just to ensure also a more deliberative form of process. If the speaker has unilateral authority to tell us what committees we're on, what happens is, and we saw it last session, members will make backroom deals to get on a committee. And you all know that. I've talked to members of your side of the aisle who said, if I want to be chairman, I got to, do what they say. And I'm not going to do that. And I've heard Republicans tell me that. And we know how this place works. And if it was the Democrats in control, perhaps it would be the same way. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be. We should not be here making backroom deals or saying, I'll be silent on this if you put me as this committee, or if you give me this office space, or if it's just so many backroom deals, and it is so insulting to the people of Tennessee. And so I hope that we can be more transparent and do like Congress does. And this is something they have right, is where each party gets a certain amount of seats on each committee, and then each party leadership gets to say which committee you get to serve on. And it will assure equity, and also ensure better deliberation. And that's just the hope this session. I hope we can all work together and be more collective in our decision making, and not as adversarial. And this is one way to ensure that, by ensuring that the minority party, which is really the opposition party, is treated as an equal member in this body, and not just on something to be crushed or silenced, but to be worked with. Because majority of things we want to work together, I hope. And this is one way to do that. And so let the minority party have a voice. Let the minority party be treated as colleagues and not as subjects. But let us represent our people of our district equally. And I hope we can do that together.
All right, Representative Hakeem, any follow-up?
No follow-up. Thank you, sir.
All right. Any additional questions? Chairman Farmer.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Representative Jones. I appreciate you bringing this. But I'm going to disagree on it for a couple of reasons. One, I have trouble striving to be like the United States Congress. They haven't passed a budget in 20 years. We do that every single year. And also, last time I checked, each vote from each member of any subcommittee or full committee had the same exact weight. And my 12 years, going on my 13th year now, I've seen some very spirited debate, 4 5-hour debate, limited by nothing other than the time that the members wanted to spend by both parties. You, sir, have been in front of my committee that I've chaired in the past. I don't know what I'm going to chair this year. That hadn't been announced yet, but it's been, I feel fair, at least in the committee that I've chaired and others that I've seen and witnessed. And I feel like each member's had the opportunity to speak their mind. And that also reflects to the House floor as well. I know that the minority party has probably taken 90% or 85% of the time, speaking time on the House floor. I think we ran those numbers last year. So I don't think there's any sort of silencing by the minority party, by the majority party of the minority party. And I think you'd have to agree with that. But once again, I understand what you're trying to say. And I guess at the end of the day, it comes down to this: is the Republicans have 75 members of the 99 members of Tennessee General Assembly. And out of those 75 members, every one of them have agreed that Cameron Sexton is our speaker. And we voted him as speaker. He didn't put himself there. We put him there by our vote, just like we did earlier today. So with that comes the ability to appoint committees. And those are things we've allowed him to do. Just like right now, we're passing and voting on rules that allows for the speaker to do certain things. So we put him in the position by each and every one of our votes to do what he does. So that's what it comes down to. We've put him there to do what we've asked him to do, and what 75% of the state of Tennessee has asked us to do by way of policy. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman.
So,
And Chairman Jones, or excuse me, Representative Jones. Oh, if we can just silence those cell phones for me. There's a little button on the side. Oh, no big deal. That's okay. No big deal. It's just a lot of them got the little button on the side. Just hit that for me. It's not a big deal. If they all go off at once, it would probably be a big deal. One every time, every now and again, ain't that big a deal. Representative Jones, please.
Thank you. Let's start with the truth. Under your rules in your caucus, each member of your caucus has to vote for Cameron Sexton. I talked to about 4 members who did not want to vote for Cameron Sexton. In fact, there are members of your caucus who are afraid to vote against vouchers because of how it will punish them on a committee assignment. Let's be honest. You know who they are and I know who they are. Members should not be afraid to vote for their district because they'll be punished by the House Speaker if they vote against this voucher bill. That's shameful.
Representative
And
Jones,
that's not
let's stick
democracy.
on the bills on the actual rule submission. I know I'm giving y'all a lot of latitude, but just let's,
Chairman
we'll
Far-
have time to
Representative
fight
Farmer,
about bill. Hang on.
Representative Farmer wants to use it. I'm giving an example.
I know,
this
but
is- this
we'll
is-
have time to fight about bills later, but let's try to stick
Oh,
on the rules.
Bro, this is not fighting. This is about truth telling right now. Let's
Well,
be honest. Let's talk about what's happening. But we'll continue. The minority party was silenced, and we're going to do it again today, because when you limit our bills, you're silencing only who? The minority party. Your members on your side of the aisle, through their chairman, through your leader, can have an unlimited amount of bills almost, because they carry the agenda of the governor. There's no limit. It's about silencing the voices of our party, of our constituents, and about silencing us from doing our jobs adequately. There are members of your party last session who were on the House floor speaking out of order. You heard about it. You laughed about it. They weren't silenced. Only one side of the aisle was Rule 19'd. There are members of your side of the aisle who acted inappropriately. They weren't silenced or expelled. They were allowed to resign on their own accord. So let's talk about the real balance of power in this building, which is leading toward authoritarianism. You have these speaking points that we are speaking on the House floor, where we have to speak more because there are fewer of us, so we have to speak more frequently, and you are offended by that. Whereas if I was in the majority, Farmer, I'll let you speak as long as you want, because I know I had the votes. I know that we have the supermajority. I would say go ahead and talk however you want, my friend here, Ryan, because I forgot your last name, I'm sorry. You can speak as long as you want, Williams, because I know we have the votes, but the fragility of power says that we want to restrict you from even speaking because we're so fragile. That's weakness to me, brother. Don't be afraid of hearing a dissenting opinion. Don't be afraid of allowing other people to speak, that you have to create rules to restrict them and target them. But let's have open debate and let everyone speak equally, because at the end of the day, you say you have the votes. You say there's 75 of y'all. Let us speak. That's all we're asking for. That's the only tool we have in this building. We are not chairs of committees. We are not vice chairs of committees. We don't get to set calendar and rules. We don't get to create special mechanisms of calling special sessions. Only you all can do that. All we have is our voice. And you've restricted that, saying we're going to limit welcoming and honoring because we don't want to hear your voice. We're going to limit you to 5 minutes because we don't want to hear your voice. We're going to limit your bills now because we don't want to hear your voice. That does not sound like a body that is confident in their power. That sounds like a group who is fragile in their power and who recognizes that the times, they are changing. And so you can move on over, or we'll move on over you, brother, because we're moving on. And we're going to continue to speak. And no matter how much you try and silence the people, our voices are louder than that gavel up there. So power to the people.
All righty. So Chairman Williams.
Thank you. I don't know if I know how to work this.
If you hit the on the left-hand side,
There you go.
Show up right there. You go.
There we go. Thank you very much. I'm in the long discussion from Representative Jones of Davidson County. I have somehow lost because I couldn't match the words with the rule he was talking about. Could you reaffirm for me if it's Rule 6 or Rule 10 he was discussing?
We are still on Rule 6 at this juncture.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. All right. Any further discussion on this particular rule submission? We are on Rule 6. All right. Seeing none, we'll be voting on Rule 6. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay.
No.
Well, the noes have it. All right. Rule 10 is the next one. And Representative Jones, if I may, is this fine for roll call, or you want a roll call? Or voice
I'll
vote?
stop you when I want the roll call.
Pardon?
I'll stop you when I want a roll call. We're getting close, but I'll
Okay.
stop you. Yeah.
Just
You can
holler
continue.
out anytime you want one. That's fine. Rule 10, do we have any questions or discussion on Rule 10? Chairman Williams, yes, sir.
Thank you, Leader. Representative, been here for a couple minutes. There has been an instance, it has been the traditional policy, regardless of whether it was a majority from either side of the aisle or whether it's supermajority or just a simple majority, that our staff employees were hired by the office and the chamber in which they represent, in this case, the House and the leader of the House, which in this case is the House Speaker. One of the reasons why I like the way we currently do it is because there has been an instance, and unfortunately, I had a colleague on my side of the aisle who had inappropriate behavior with employees.
The speaker?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm trying to remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hang on. If y'all
Pretty,
don't mind,
pretty
hang on.
disrespectful,
If y'all don't
because
mind,
I'm
please-
thinking about the state employees here who might be trapped in a really bad situation.
And there's
Whereas-
real
Hang on,
evidence.
I'm going to ask you gentlemen not to speak over each other.
Okay.
So I don't want to cut mics off or anything like that. But if you can, Chairman Williams, go ahead and finish your thoughts. And Representative
Chairman.
Jones, I'll come back to you in just a moment. And I'm calling folks chairman that have been chairman in the past. Obviously, nobody's been appointed chairman yet. We're discussing rules on that. But Chairman Williams, if you can continue, and Representative Jones, I will come back to you in a moment. Chairman Williams.
I'll try to be brief.
No, take
But-
your time.
But
Take your
my concern is that there have been instances where I have called because I heard someone had called me because they'd heard about someone else having an issue, being able to go to the speaker and them deal with that and place that state employee who works for the House of Representatives for a certain member, being able to place them in another place because of the egregious behavior that had happened in the past.
Definitely.
I like that part about the current policy because our employees are fantastic employees, particularly the ones that are here.
Definitely.
I've been blessed to have two good assistants. But what I wanted to make sure is that we weren't creating an environment where it wasn't the end result wouldn't protect the employee maybe from a bad situation that they were there that gave them a means or a way out.
Definitely.
So my question to you about your change is, how are you at all concerned if you were to change that if that employee was being mistreated by their actual member, that there would be no means or mechanism by which they would simply be choosing to leave their job to get rid of a bad situation instead of being put somewhere else? Because this happens. Unfortunately, it's happened a few times. So my fear would be that we would isolate or force those people out of service here to the state.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
Representative Jones.
Thank you so much, Representative Williams. Do you remember how Speaker Sexton became Speaker? Who was the former Speaker, Glenn Casta, who was inappropriate with staff members, who had to resign in disgrace because he was abusing his power toward both the public and staff members? Do you remember how you got Speaker Sexton? It was your former Speaker who you voted for on your side of the aisle who was engaging in inappropriate relationships in this building. How are we going to hold him accountable? Did you not read the stories last session? I think Scotty Campbell spoke to them, Representative Faison, of inappropriate behavior from House leadership, Republican leadership, towards staff members. Who did they go to? In his case, the staff member, an intern, was given paid in cash. There was a cover up and there was no way to protect staff. So if you want to be serious about protecting staff, I am with you, but you need to look in the mirror as what's happening on your side of the aisle, because that's what happened last session and with the former speaker. The last speaker of decency we had here on the Republican side was Speaker Harwell, who tried to root out sexual harassment, who tried to get rid of Jeremy Durham, who called a vote, and members of your side of the aisle ran her out of here. Shamed her as a woman, the first woman speaker, for holding a man accountable who was sexually harassing staff and lobbyists.
Can we get back to this?
Representative Jones, I will say,
let's
former
go.
Representative
Let's
Harwell
go through the list.
ran for governor. Just to be clear, I mean, Speaker Harwell ran for governor.
Did not
and left the
Tim
body,
Wargo try and vote her out? Did your members? Because I may have not been a member, but I sat in that gallery since I was a freshman at Fisk
Representative Jones,
University,
if we
and I
can get
saw what
back
happened
to
in this
rule
chamber.
submission 10, we've wandered pretty far afield. And I will say, just for the public to understand and know, and I pulled this up on the website just to make sure folks know where this is. If you go to the House Representatives website, so the www.capitol.tn.gov, at the bottom of the page, there's a workplace discrimination policy, and every single member, everyone that works in this body, is accountable to that workplace discrimination policy. And there is a way to report that on there if there are ever any issues on there. So I think that is a very good model policy, and it is out there, and I want folks to know that it exists. So Chairman Williams, at this point, I think would you like to respond or any further comments, sir?
I hesitate to even ask for an answer to the question because he simply didn't give an answer to the question. And so I moved to withdraw my question about the safety of our state employees.
The answer is that Representative Williams' question is not seeking a genuine answer, because it's saying that we must continue to give the speaker unilateral authority, where in this instance, there will be no way to hold the speaker accountable if they are engaging in inappropriate relationships with staff, if they are mistreating staff, if they are sexually harassing staff. Because if the speaker has a unilateral authority, who do we report to? To the HR director who they hire? To who? To the clerk's office who they hire? There is no one to hold the speaker accountable. And that is wrong. And we saw it misused under Speaker Glenn Cassida. We're seeing it misused now. And so this is a way to rein in that rule that has run roughshod of the intention, which I believe in all of us, at least with this committee, as I look at the members of this committee, we want staff to be protected. We want interns to be protected here. But as the rules are set up now, to my friend Representative Williams, they do not protect people if the speaker is the aggressor or if the speaker is the one harassing them. There's no mechanism, and that is wrong. And so if you want to correct that, let's have a real conversation, but let's not say that the speaker is the only one who can protect staff here, because too often they have been the ones who've been abusing them. And so I hope that we can be honest about our intentions.
There we go. We're back. We're on Rule 10 in discussion of this. And this is the one that, in the quotes, the speaker shall appoint each House employees, except those who work for individual members on behalf of respective caucus. Each member shall be responsible for hiring decisions in the respective offices. Members, that's the one we're on. Any additional discussion or debate on that? Okay, question's been called. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. No. The noes seem to have it. Thank you. All right. And Rule 19.
Point of information. I don't know what. Rule 19, you can just read those two together because they make more sense together. The one striking Rule 19 and the one
Okay.
rewriting it. Just vote if you can
thank
vote
you.
on them together.
We'll go ahead and go. So there's basically on your page, there are two Rule 19s, and so those are combined. One strikes, one adds. Any discussion or debate on the Rule 19 changes? Proposed changes? Nope, seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. All right, the noes have it. And Rule 21,
Point
I
of-
believe, was
You-
withdrawn.
Yeah, strike.
No
That's
problem.
the same as Leader Camper's.
And we are now over on the next page, Rule 29. And very short, just one sentence there, 5-2. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Noes have it. We are now on Rule 30. On Rule 30, take a moment there, take a look at it. It's been described by the sponsor of this. Any questions or discussion? Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There you go.
Representative, can you explain more about what you're trying to get at with this particular rule change?
Representative Jones.
Yeah, this is Rule.
Excuse me. I believe we're on Rule 30 at this juncture.
Oh, yeah, Rule 30. This is about just ensuring that we are in compliance with the Tennessee Constitution, where we can submit our written dissents. And so if we're not able to speak on the House floor, or if we dissent against a bill, we can write out our dissents as the Article 2, Section 27. This is just making sure that there's no way to censor what we're putting, what we're adding, especially if there's no committee or any transparent process for that. So it's just saying that members may decide the form and style they would like to submit their dissents to the journal and retain all rights and privileges as members over their own speech and written words. And so this is just to make sure that we don't have unsolicited editors editing our statements to the record. I submitted, I think, 5 entries. Chief Clerk Tammy Letzler can answer more specifically, but I submitted 5 journals. Too often I've been told that they are not relevant to the topic. And I believe one of them was about guns in schools with teachers, and I wrote why I was dissenting against it. And then unilaterally and without any type of transparent decision, I was told that my response was not relevant to the bill, where I was voting for it for a reason. I said I think my teachers in my district want to be armed with supplies and books and resources and not guns in their classrooms. And I was told that that could not be added to the House Journal. And so it's not fair, and it's another way to censor our voices and our votes and in our opinions of our districts from being entered to the House Journal.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Leader Camper.
So you're saying that not just what you put in there in terms of your dissent, but the style in which you put in there was rejected as well. The way you write,
Yeah.
your style of talking about or recording how Representative Jones convey a point.
Yeah.
You're saying that was challenged as well?
Representative Jones.
Yeah, I mean, we are not able to add anything, essentially they want us to, there's a form way, the clerk and parliamentarian send it to my office and you have to start by saying, I, under Article 2, section whatever, dissent against this, and you have to say it in a certain way. And then even when you add your reasoning why, they can restrict and censor it. And that happened multiple times. I have the emails to prove it. And we can put those for the record, but there was no process stated out, and it seemed very arbitrary, and it was not transparent because my colleagues were not able to say this, but it was people who were again pointed by the speakers telling me that I could not put it in the way that I want to talk in the speech I would have given on the House floor, that we're still going to restrict it from the journal, and that does not seem to be welcoming of all viewpoints, and even the written word to tell us what is happening in our General Assembly.
Thank you,
Leader
Mr.
Kemp, any
Chairman.
follow-up?
Thank you. No, that was good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Any additional discussion? We are on Rule 30. Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay? No. The noes have it. We're on Rule 32 at this juncture. And again, Representative Jones, just stop me at any point if you'd like a roll call.
Okay. It's going to be, I'll just be clear, it's going to be the ones at the end.
Oh, the last ones.
Yeah.
Okay. So the ones on mine, I have in bold the addition of the following rules to the Tennessee House of Representatives Permanent Rules of Order. And there are 4 submissions after that.
Yeah.
Is it all 4 of those you'd like a roll call?
Yeah, roll call.
All right. Then I won't belabor and come back to you. We'll do a roll call on those
Excuse me,
4.
that one and also the one about allowing our spouses or children to be lobbyists, that one I want a roll call vote on. And also the one on allowing visual aids in committees. I want a roll call vote on those. So just Rule 35, Rule 80 through 2, Rule 85, Rule 86, Rule 87, and Rule 88. I want a roll call vote on those.
All right, I think I've got it. We're on Rule 32 at this juncture. And again, that is another one that goes just from 5 to 2. Any discussion on that one? All right, seeing none, we'll be voting on Rule number 32. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? No. All right, the noes have it. Now,
So Rule
I
35.
would like, at this juncture, if we can, do you mind if that's all right with everybody, if we can do Rule 74, I don't believe that's a roll call vote. That's just a voice vote.
Yeah.
So let me skip down. I'm going to come back to 35, but let's skip down to Rule 74. And members, any discussion, it's just 2/3 to 3/4. Any discussion or questions about Animal Rule 74? No? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay? No. All right, noes have it. All right, now we have remaining, I think, for the Representative Jones calendar.
Also, did you do Rule 85, Representative Lambert?
Not yet, not yet.
That one doesn't need a roll call either.
Oh, Rule 85.
The first
To
Rule
just
85.
strike from the Tennessee. Well, Rule 85, I think, goes with, it appears anyways, that it strikes language and then you add language.
You want to keep them together? Okay, you can keep them
Yeah,
together.
I think keeping them together if you don't mind. All right, so I have left here Rule 35, 82, and then 85, 6, 7, and 8.
Yes.
Now, we're going to be doing a roll call on that. I had just inside discussion here, a request to go ahead and combine those. Any objection from the sponsor of the rule on that? So we would vote on all those together.
No, I object.
Okay.
I want
all right.
each
We'll
one
do them one at a
separate.
time. Not
Thank
a
you.
problem. All right. We're on Rule 35 at this juncture, and the member has requested a roll call on this one.
So this is the one about visual aids and
Yes, sir.
committees. Okay.
I'm aware. And so just go ahead, take a look at it there. You've had a reminder of which one it is. You've had a description. Any discussion on this one before we vote? Representative Akeem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, are you saying that I guess everyone doesn't digest information the same, and visual aids could be of assistance in that? And if that's the case, what reasoning has been given to you as to why we wouldn't want to do that?
Yes.
Representative Jones.
Thank you. Again, the example I gave being on Joint GovOps, where the Senate members could get a handout, they could have a visual display, but then we had to have a whole discussion in GovOps. I believe Faison's on it, Lambert's on it. If the House could have that handout and visual aid, that would have helped us inform us to make our decision. And the senators, well, I think I was sitting by Janice Bowling and them. I mean, they were like, this is a rule actually in your chamber. We don't have that in our chamber. But the Senate, is able to just use other tools to inform their decision. And so I think this will just be very helpful for members to have more visual aids. Because even, if I had a chart here that I wanted to give you as to the data of how many people are visual learners, how many people are audio learners, how many people are kinesthetic learners, to talk about the different types of learning, I couldn't give you that handout right now in the House. to show you that pie chart, but in the Senate, they could give it to their members. It just is about other ways of learning and digesting information. And for some of us, it's visual. And I believe that this rule just took effect recently. This rule was not in effect until after the special session, this rule was created in the House. So until then, there was no restriction on visual aids in committee until most recently, following the special session of 2023, then we had a restriction on visual aids in committee. And so that's what we saw.
All right. Any additional discussion on this particular bill? We will be doing a roll call. Chairman Farmer.
Just want to say a couple things. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Three things, as a matter of fact. One, as former chair of a committee, if you just email the chairman, we can email those out to committee members beforehand so each member can see what they have. Madam Clerk will have also these items that are there put on dashboard. And all of us have state-issued iPads that we can all bring with us during committee to see these things and read those and examine those as just as much as the heart may please. So just wanted to remind you about that.
Thank you. Can I,
All right.
Representative Lemon, can I point out
Sure,
another
Representative
unintended
Jones, go ahead.
I'm looking at my brother here, Representative Darby, who serves on the Agriculture Committee with me. I don't know if you remember an instance where I had to point out these rules to the chairman of the committee because actually these rules had an unintended consequence. Chris Todd, who's the chairman of our committee, came in with the Israel flag. I said, well, under the House rules, Chairman, you are not allowed to have any type of visual representation about a position. And he had to ask and get clarity. Oh, no, you know who was the chairman of this, who I made that point to? My brother right here. Do you remember that? And we had to get clarity about that rule because they didn't know that these rules are going to apply to their own members as well. And so the chairman here, who's a subcommittee chair, I had to point it out to him. And Chris Todd reluctantly.
I know we've been out a while. Chairman Grills. So I know we hadn't seen each other in a while. So
Yeah.
Chairman Grills, go ahead.
What did I call you?
I don't think you mentioned it. I
Oh,
was
yeah,
just
Chairman
saying
Grills,
Chairman Grills. I
thank
think, just so everybody knows, I think we're referring to
Yes.
Chairman Grills here.
Chairman Grills, I know he just said he remembers this. So I had to point out to the chairman that this other chairman was out of order under the House rules because we're not allowed to have this. And he said he could have it, but we had to get clarity, and he had to reluctantly take off that Israel flag. And so it's hurting your own members. It's hurting your own members as well, who may want to come in, with a visual aid of something that they believe in. Because under this rules, it could restrict other pins. I see other members who have certain pins on sometimes. And, if we're in ag committee, we had another colleague who's really big on energy. And I said, well, under the House rules, we can't have a pin advocating a specific energy policy because these are the rules you voted on. And so it's hurting your own members is what I'm trying to say, is that there's unintended consequences. It may be targeted at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 individuals, but it's impacting others who don't even know that these rules are applying to them. And we have to point it out each and every time.
All right, thank you. Any additional discussion or debate on Rule 35? All right, seeing none. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Representatives Camper. Camper votes aye. Crawford.
No.
Crawford votes no. Darby. Darby votes no. Faison. Faison votes no. Farmer. Farmer votes no. Grills.
No.
Grills votes no. Hakeem.
Aye.
Hakeem votes aye. Hicks. Hicks votes no. Shaw. Shaw.
Madam Clerk, well, I had asked him to be marked absent, so he is now back. So Representative Shaw has obviously rejoined us. So please go ahead and vote, sir.
Thank you. My vote's no on this.
Shaw votes no. Williams. Williams votes no. Chairman Lamberth.
No.
Lamberth votes no. Mr. Chairman, you have 2 ayes, 9 noes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Representative Jones. And Representative Shaw, you're recognized. Just hit the button there.
Am I in order to make a comment about that? Since I just got back in?
So Representative Shaw, unfortunately, we are completed with that one. And so we don't have explanations of vote in the House anymore. Years ago, when you and I have been here a while, you've been here longer than I have, we used to do that. But unfortunately, that, especially in the Rules Committee, I should probably stick with the rules, and that's not permitted. So thank you, sir, and I apologize.
Thank you.
Next is rule number 82.
This is about allowing spouses to be lobbyists or
Yes.
children to be lobbyists.
Representative Judge, you had described it earlier, and if you don't mind, I'm going to ask if there's any questions, and then we can have debate. So are there any questions on this? I know the sponsor had described this one earlier. It is a little more lengthy. Take a minute to look at it. Any questions? No. And I believe you would like a roll call vote on this one, correct?
I think that all of your constituents have the right to know how you vote on this. I just want this to be on the record. Thank you.
Well, and the verbal votes will be on the website as well. And if at the end of this, if there are any of these that you would like to be recorded as a no, and thank you for the reminder, please let the clerk know. I should have been doing that at each one. So, but a roll call vote will be recorded obviously right now. So we'll be voting on Rule 82. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Oh, hang on. I did not see Chairman Williams. Sorry, sir. Chairman Williams.
Thank you. Representative, does this language, I don't read anything, does this language take into consideration if if the one of the two folks in the marriage was performing those duties prior to that marriage?
No, that's
Representative-
that's irrelevant to
Jones.
it. Is if you run for office and your spouse is a lobbyist, then they maybe shouldn't be a lobbyist anymore, because you are there as an advocate and a person gets to vote on bills. And so under the laws now, that member can vote on bills that their spouse is lobbying for. So that is not relevant, and it shouldn't be taken into account. That if you are married to somebody who is a lobbyist or your child's a lobbyist, they should not be able to lobby you to get you to vote on something. Again, it's corruption. And this is an anti-corruption bill that in fact came to me from Republicans, that came to me from conservatives who are tired of corruption. And so I hope that we can have bipartisan support of rooting out. This is a very common sense bill, and I hope that we can have bipartisan support of it.
All right. Any follow-up? Oh, Chairman Williams, go right ahead.
Just a question. So it would be your view or belief that if two people met here that were single when they got here.
So if a member met a lobbyist and came in,
Hold
okay.
up, gentlemen, please let each other finish.
I'm
Chairman
not-
Williams, and I
I'm
will
not
come back to you,
interrupting
Representative.
him at
No,
all.
I know.
Yeah.
But Chairman Williams, please complete your thought, and then Representative Jones, I will come back to you.
Thanks.
It will happen. Go
So
ahead.
if my,
If two people met here,
Representative Jones, please let him finish. Chairman Williams, and
So-
then I will come back to you. I know we're all a little rusty. It's been a while since we've been here, but this is how it works. Go ahead.
So if my wife and I met here after I got elected and she wasn't a lobbyist before that, before she chose to marry me, she'd have to quit her profession.
so if you,
I'm just
Representative
asking.
can I
It's a
answer
fair
this?
All right. Now, Chairman Williams is done. Representative Jones.
First of all, I would file an ethics complaint against you, because if you are dating a lobbyist here and you end up marrying a lobbyist here, someone who comes to your office in a work capacity, then I'll file an ethics complaint against you. First of all, because that shouldn't be happening. So
But I will say,
that-
just for point of
that-
reference, that I think Chairman Williams had been married a really long time.
It doesn't
even
matter.
before he ever got here. So I think we're dealing with
the example he gave. He
we're
asked the
dealing with
question.
hypotheticals. I
You
just
can
wanna make it
try and
clear.
joke, but this is
Yeah.
a serious thing. This is a
I know,
serious thing,
I'm not joking. I'm just
This is a
saying
serious
we're dealing
matter.
with hypotheticals. So go ahead.
and so that shouldn't be happening. That's not professional. That's not ethical, and it shouldn't be happening in this building. And so, if you meet your wife here, or your husband,
Okay,
or your
members of the audience, please, if you wish to debate, you may run for office as these gentlemen did, and you may debate, but we are asking that you please, you both have, I would ask you to please not comment while Representative Jones or Representative Williams or anybody else is making a point. Representative Jones, please continue. I apologize for the interruption.
I'm good. So to Representative Williams, what's his name? My friend
It's Representative Williams.
Williams.
Go ahead.
Representative Williams. We got William Lamberth. We got Williams. I'm sorry. Representative Williams said if he met his spouse here, should she or he have to resign from their position? And the answer that I first gave was that shouldn't be happening. The second answer would be then yes. They should not be a lobbyist and being able to inform you when that is just, it gives the appearance of impropriety. And if a judge we have an attorney here, my friend Lamberth. If a judge had a lawyer come before them who was their spouse, the judge would have to do what, Lamberth? Recuse themselves. If they had a lawyer come before them who was their child, they would have to do what, Lamberth? Recuse themselves. And so, again, it's about avoiding the appearance of impropriety and ensuring that our constituents see that we're here without any undue influence, without any unethical behavior that may influence our vote for our constituents. So that's my response.
All right. Thank you, Representative. Good back and forth. Anybody else? Any further questions or comments, discussion on this one? We are on Rule 82, the submission for Rule 82. See none. I believe you've asked for roll call on this one. So, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Representatives Camper. Camper votes aye. Crawford.
No.
Crawford votes no. Darby.
No.
Darby votes no. Faison.
No.
Faison votes no. Farmer.
No.
Farmer votes no. Grills.
No.
Grills votes no. Hakeem.
No.
Hakeem votes no. Hicks. Hicks votes no. Shaw.
Yes.
Shaw votes yes. Williams. Williams votes no. Chairman Lamberth.
No.
Chairman Lamberth votes no. Mr. Chairman, you have 2 ayes, 9 noes.
All right, that one fails. We are on Rule 85, which has been combined, the Rule 85 striking and then the Rule 85 adding. Do we have any questions for the sponsor of the rule submission at this juncture? All right.
And this
Seeing
one is,
none?
This one is about
Uh-huh.
the formation of caucuses. Okay.
Yes, sir. And you had described that earlier. So again, seeing no further questions, I believe you'd like a roll call this.
Roll call.
Yep, roll call on this one as well. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Representatives Camper. Camper votes aye. Crawford.
No.
Crawford votes no. Darby.
No.
Darby votes no. Faison.
Nope.
Faison votes no. Farmer.
No.
Farmer votes no. Grills.
No.
Grills votes no. Hakeem.
Aye.
Hakeem votes aye. Hicks. Hicks votes no. Shaw.
Aye.
Shaw votes aye. Williams.
No.
Williams votes no. Chairman Lamberth.
No.
Lamberth votes no. Mr. Chairman, you have 3 ayes, 8 noes.
All right, that one fails. We are on, Rule Submission 86, titled Firearms Policy.
This is about
Do we have-
prohibiting firearms in our committee
You
rooms.
had previously described it. And so additional question, it's very simple. It's one sentence. Any additional questions or debate on this one? I will, before we vote on this one, if no one else has any statement to make on it, I will make a statement on this. All of you in here, I trust if you are exercising your Second Amendment rights to do so. I trust that you are not going to cause harm to any one of us, and you are allowed to carry a firearm in the Court of the Whole building. You are not allowed to do so in the Capitol, but just because you choose to exercise one of your constitutional rights, I do not find you a danger to anyone in this committee. If you are a danger, that is why we have law enforcement here. So that is why that policy has been in the past, but I know you are seeking to change that at this juncture. And I've held back on making these statements and other ones, but since someone else had a statement on that, I did want to make a statement. I hold our constitutional rights very dear. I know you do as well. And on this particular issue, the public is allowed in this building and you are allowed your constitutional rights. And so that is one of them. And Representative Jones, since I spoke on that, would you like to respond, sir?
Thank you so much. Representative Lamberth just told us that he trusts you to bring a firearm into this building. But guess what Representative Lamberth does not trust you to bring to this building? A sign this big. He wants reasonable restrictions when it comes to a piece of paper, but not to a weapon that could take out multiple members at one time. So Lamberth, if you want to protect constitutional rights, let's be consistent and allow people to bring a piece of paper this big. And if you trust them to bring a firearm, why is this more dangerous to you than a firearm? If this bill said, vote no, Lamberth, you would say, you're out of order, Sergeant Arm, that person has to be out of here. You voted on those rules. You offered those rules. And we saw members of the public drug out from committees who were holding signs. And so you trust them with a gun, but you don't trust them with a piece of paper. Ask why that is, and ask if that's consistent constitutionally, and if it's really about protecting people's rights. Because if that was the case, then the First Amendment comes before the Second Amendment, brother. The First Amendment, freedom of expression. Thank you.
Thank you. And obviously we have signs in here today and you're welcome to exercise your right to that as well. There are sign, and I'll give you a chance to respond in a moment. There are limits on the size of those signs. We do not want to block others' view. We do want to make sure that everybody in here can see. So we've asked that we keep signs at a reasonable size. Now, at the same time, write whatever you'd want on them. I read those when we're on the committee. So I appreciate you coming here and making your voices heard each and every time. I've asked that you not shout out, but obviously you have signs today and you are allowed that. Both the First Amendment and the Second Amendment are respected in here, but there are some restrictions on that, obviously, just like there are restrictions on several of these amendments. Now, I'm not going to get in a long constitutional debate with you,
I have a response.
but Representative Jones, you are not allowed a prop. You already referenced that rule earlier. So unfortunately, you are
Okay,
not allowed
I won't
a
use the
prop.
prop. I just want to make a point.
You may make whatever points you'd like, but without
Thank
a
you.
prop.
I had a
please.
member of my committee of my community come in to this Capitol today with a piece of paper, a sign, and they had to rip an inch off because it was out of compliance. They had to rip an inch off of this piece of paper because they said that's what the rules entail. An inch does not impede someone's view, but it's about the arbitrary nature of this. And what you are saying is, number one, you want reasonable restrictions to make sure that other people's rights are not infringed on. I believe that's what you're getting at, that you want to be sure that everyone can see, everyone can pay attention to what's going on. If we had members of the Proud Boys come into this committee room, Lamberth, maybe you would feel comfortable, but I know the people of my district would not feel comfortable coming into this committee room if the Proud Boys were here with firearms. And so it's about making sure that everyone feels welcome. And this is new. You know what's so interesting? Governor Bill Lee thought we were crazy. He said, y'all can keep guns over there in Cordell Hall, but when it comes to the Capitol building that I have enforcement over, no guns are allowed. Why do you think we have that checkpoint in that tunnel there? Because the governor said, we don't want guns in the Capitol building. So the governor said, we don't want them to bring guns on our side of the building. But you all said, let them bring guns. And let's be clear, it's a very specific group of people you want to bring guns. Because if it was a bunch of people who look like me, I think the rules would change. But it's a very specific group who you want to bring guns into this Capitol building. Because again, if we're telling people to rip off 1 inch off a piece of paper in order to get a sign in, that's not about protecting anyone's rights. That's about flexing power and making certain people feel unwelcome here. And so again, I don't think firearms should be allowed here. If you want to say that you feel safe with firearms, when the Proud Boys were out here last year, maybe I think you feel safe because they weren't coming for you.
Representative Jones, those people hate me as bad as they hate you. Let's not get into
They
it.
go to Thanksgiving.
I've made it
together
clear where
with
I
you.
stand on anyone that comes that hates in this Capitol and wishes to infringe upon your constitutional rights or anyone else's. And I will continue to stand, but I will stand for folks' Second Amendment right to bear arms. We've been in this building for 7 years. Representative Jones, I will come back to you. We have been in this building for 7 years. We have allowed firearms in this building the entire time, and none of those law-abiding citizens have committed any crimes. Now, your party, sir, may think that every single person that exercises a Second Amendment right is a homicidal maniac, but I know they are God-fearing Americans.
Can I respond?
Absolutely.
You said they hate you as much as they hate me, but you rallied with them against transgender children. The Proud Boys
You know
and
that's not
had
true.
a rally together outside the Capitol. There's pictures of it. You rallied with the Proud Boys, Lambert. So you can't say they hate you when you rally with them, when you gather with them, when you have the same policy agenda as them. So I don't want to get. We can get back on the subject.
Representative Jones, we're about the rules. I wanted to make a comment on it. We'll have
And
all
I made
year
a
to
comment in
debate this.
response.
And I appreciate your response. We will have all year to debate this. And so we will continue this debate another time. I think we've probably gone beyond where the committee wants to go. You and I could probably go back and forth on this topic for a long time.
We can talk after this, but this rule's about saying there's no firearms allowed in committee rooms, or at the very least, let the chairmen decide if they want a gun in their committee room. You know, why are we making this overall blanket statement? There's some chairman, maybe you feel comfortable, but maybe there's a chairman who doesn't want guns in their committee room. Just like there's some chairmen who do the Pledge of Allegiance, some who don't. There's some chairmen who allow, extra time to speak, and there are some who don't. Let the chairman decide then, but don't you make this one blanket statement saying that every committee room has to have guns in it. Just like the governor made his decision saying he doesn't want guns in the Capitol building. Let each committee decide. And like in my office, I hope people don't bring guns, because I can't trust, with the political climate we're in, that we're all safe here. We cannot trust that, just like what we saw, in January 6th, we cannot trust that we will be protected here. And so, I don't know if members are bringing guns to committee rooms too, but if we're not, then we're here by ourselves. And so it makes no sense for members of the public to be bringing firearms to our committee that can be used to intimidate members, because it doesn't have any restriction. Is it a handgun? Can someone bring an assault weapon to our committee room? It doesn't make clear. It's just very arbitrary saying we allow firearms here. So where does that stop? Is it just a handgun, Lambert, or is it going to be an assault AR-15 just as a prop to say that they support everyone having AR-15s? And then if they're sitting in front of us in the committee, are we all supposed to feel safe that this person is here with the best intention? In today's climate, I don't know if that's the case.
Representative Jones, it was actually a representative from Davidson County from your party that brought an AR-15 into a committee. It's been a few years ago, but yes, they did.
It was
occur.
my predecessor.
It was. I wasn't going to bring that part up,
And
but
so
it was.
And so, but
Let's move on.
He had to zip tie.
The committee is obviously ready to vote.
He had to zip tie that because people felt uncomfortable with it. But then we changed the rules to say that we want to allow those things in our
Representative
committee.
Jones, it's a one-sentence amendment. You and I got in a good debate. I have gotten looks from every member of this committee on both parties, basically indicating that they are probably done listening to you and I debate this. We will have plenty of time to debate these issues. We're just getting session started. So I had Representative Hakeem on the list. If you wish to still be recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to state, I guess the concern that I have, we know what happened in environments like schools here in the city of Nashville and some other places, maybe across the state. But to it's like inviting an opportunity for persons to come in here and do harm to others. And, you know, I appreciate Second Amendment rights. I take advantage of it myself, but not in a forum of this nature. And again, to what our colleague has said, could it be used for intimidation? You know, to have people coming in here with firearms. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other debate or discussion on this one? All right, questions being called. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Representatives Camper. Camper votes aye. Crawford.
No.
Crawford votes no. Darby.
No.
Darby votes no. Faison. Faison votes no. Farmer.
No.
Farmer votes no. Grills.
No.
Grills votes no. Hakeem.
Yes.
Hakeem votes aye. Hicks.
No.
Hicks votes no. Shaw.
Aye.
Shaw votes aye. Williams. Williams votes no. Lamberth.
No.
Mr. Chairman, you have 3 ayes, 8 noes.
All right, thank you. That one fails. We are on item number 87. Two items left on this, and this has been previously described by the sponsor of the legislation dealing with size of signs.
Allowing paper
And if-
signs in our committee rooms.
You had already described them. It's not necessary to describe every one of them again. If there are questions, I will come back to you. Are there any questions on this? It has been described by the sponsor, but if we have questions or debate, previous question has been called. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Representatives Camper. Camper votes aye. Crawford.
No.
Crawford votes no. Darby.
No.
Darby votes no. Faison. Faison votes no. Farmer.
No.
Farmer votes no. Grills.
No.
Grills votes no. Hakeem.
Aye.
Hakeem votes aye. Hicks.
No.
Hicks votes no. Shaw.
Yes.
Shaw votes aye. Williams. Williams votes no. Chairman Lamberth.
No.
Lamberth votes no.
So we voted to restrict signs.
Mr. Chairman, you have 3 ayes, 8 noes.
All right. One fails.
We voted to
And-
restrict signs, but allow
Representative
guns.
Jones, you are absolutely welcome to a press conference outside and opine on these at length. But in this room, we're going to go on to item number 88, Rule 88, which is also your submission.
I was just
So-
clarifying that we voted
No,
to
you are not
restrict
clarifying
signs,
anything,
but
please.
allow
Look,
guns in our
sir,
committees.
we've gotten a lot of latitude today. You can do a press conference outside. We're moving on to item number 88, which was your submission. So I didn't allow Representative Shaw to do an explanation of vote. So we don't allow presenters to do an explanation of what they think this
I was
committee
just
may
getting
not
a
have
point of
done.
clarification. We
No.
voted to allow
Look.
guns, but restrict paper signs. I was just getting clarity, Mr.
You
Chair.
are welcome to do a press conference outside. Rule 88, ticket policy. Previous question has been called. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Representatives Camper. Camper votes aye. Crawford.
No.
Crawford votes no. Darby.
No.
Darby votes no. Faison. Faison votes no. Farmer.
No.
Farmer votes no. Grills.
No.
Grills votes no. Hakeem.
Aye.
Hakeem votes aye. Hicks. Hicks votes no. Shaw. Shaw votes aye. Williams.
Aye.
Williams.
No. All right, thank you. And that one fails as well. Representative Jones, thank you. All right, we have Representative Garrett. And Representative Garrett, I know you were out of the room earlier, but you have the remainder of the rules presentation. And what we've allowed each presenter to do is just briefly go through each submission. And you and I are friends. We've known each other a long time, Sheriff County. When I say briefly, I do mean the Webster's definition, please, sir. So please give us a brief rundown. And then if it's fine with you, we've been here about an hour and a half. I would ask that we be able to vote on your rule submission as a package. Is that okay with you, sir?
That's completely fine with me.
All right,
Sure.
sir, please describe to us your changes that you would submit.
All right, thank you. Committee and Chairman for your diligent efforts to read over these rules. I will go over each rule, try to briefly describe them as the chairman instructed. Under Rule 4, order in the gallery or the lobby. under these rules, if there is a person that is unruly, it's detrimental to the orderly business of the House, they can be removed from the chamber. They will not be able to return for that day or the next day. If they are egregious in their behavior when they do return, they can be removed for the entire General Assembly of that particular legislative session. Under Rule 9, we have eliminated the title. Under Rule 9, we've eliminated under Chief Clerk, we've eliminated the position of Assistant Chief Clerk or Parliamentarian. Under Rule 12, the order of business, welcoming and honoring will now be known as welcoming, honoring, and announcements. Under 15, where there was announcements, it'll now be known as scheduling and procedural announcements. Under Rule 19, if you are found in violation of Rule 19, we have added and/or stop the unruly behavior, where it said before you would sit, you could actually sit and continue the unruly behavior, but you must stop that unruly behavior. We have added a paragraph to that particular rule number 19 that if you continue to violate that rule and you are under the 2-minute rule as previously passed in the 113th General Assembly, you will not be able to remain in the House. You will go to what's remote voting if you violate further Rule 19. Rule 21, time limits of debate. You will have 5 minutes each when you present a bill or a resolution or whatnot. Any other one that's
All right.
recognized?
Hey, come on, y'all. Representative Garrett is presenting. I would ask members that are here in the committee room to please keep it down. And Representative Jones, you have had plenty of time to present your rules. Please, if you can, everybody just keep it down. Let's respect the presenter that is presenting his rules submissions. Thank you, Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under Rule 21, time limits of debate, when you have your 5 minutes to present your piece of legislation, if someone is recognized and they have their 5 minutes, if your 5 minutes was used up, the sponsor gets additional 2 minutes in response to the question. That is actually practice now. We're just actually putting it into the rules. That's rule under 21. When you have a motion that's laid to the table, typically that person making that motion will have 5 minutes to present that motion. It'll go back to the sponsor. The sponsor would have 5 minutes to respond. Then the movement of the motion, instead of having additional 5 minutes, will be reduced to 2 minutes under Rule 25. Rule 35 is other papers and visual aids. While we are on the floor, we are not able to have any type of visual aids either on our person or in our hands. This would also apply to everyone else that's on the floor, including pages, etc., that would be on the floor. That same rule would apply to all people on the floor of the House. Filing of the bills, Rule 44. Currently, we have a 15 bill limit that will go down to 12 for each member. The full committee chairman will still have 5 additional. The other amendment, the sub chair will have 2 additional under the new 12 bill limit under that particular rule. Rule 49 is if there is a bill to be debated that the majority leader and minority leader has decided this is a rather lengthy bill, they set a particular time. We did not have it in there. The actual sponsor of that piece of legislation would have 5 minutes to have opening remarks. That is reflected in paragraph 3 under Rule 49. Under Rule 77, this will actually be applicable to another portion of the rule. We have added a section that I'll get to in just a second. Rule number 80, you now have 2 presentations on the floor, and you can either do those, and we have half sessions here, one this year, then one next year. Now you'll have 1 in each year. So if you have 2 presentations, you can't do it in one particular half of the General Assembly. You have to do it one now and then one next year. Under Rule 83, the Uniform Rules of Committees. In this committee, right now, if you remember, you can typically sit at the dais. Right now, that's going to be limited to the majority leader, the minority leader, the sponsor of the legislation, and of course, any staff that's designated by the speaker. That doesn't mean you can't walk up here and come talk to someone if you're a member, but you can't actually sit on the committee if you're not a member of that particular committee. Also, members, you may have seen the little new microphone that's in front of you. There will be now electronic voting. Under Rule 83, there will be a bill that's in consideration for final consideration of the committee, whether it's going to be passed out of committee or there's some sort of final determination, that will be recorded on the mechanism, the new microphone that's sitting in front of you. If it's an amendment that you're adding or an action that does not have final determination of that particular piece of legislation in this committee, it can still be doing by regular course that y'all been doing today. That is Rule 83. Under Rule 86, the member has a parliamentary or point of order. When you do that on the floor, that is the only thing that you can say. That you get the speaker's attention, he recognizes you, you have a point of order or a parliamentary inquiry, you come up to the parliamentarian, you tell the parliamentarian of what your point of order or what your parliamentary inquiry is. Now, not only can both leaders from both parties, the majority leader, the minority leader, now the caucus chairman from either party can approach the dais and be there when the discussion is made about the point of order or the parliamentary inquiry. That is Rule 86. Rule 87 is the details on how remote voting will work. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions on that, so I'll be glad to take those when you all may have questions on that, but that details how the remote voting would work, subject to those under Rule 19 that is unruly, or whatever the case may be, that may be found under violation of Rule 19. Rule 65 are your new standing committees. You have those in front of you. I will not go through those. We can certainly address those if you should, but those will be your new standing committees. One slight change is the Government Ops Committee. There still will be designees by the Speaker Pro Tem, the majority and minority leader, but those designees will now be by the Speaker. Also, as it relates to the committees, the last rule in your packet well, it's not the last rule. It's actually inside still, I believe, Rule 87. The naming and designating committee and the private acts committee will be similar to GovOps. It'll be just a committee that either approves or doesn't approve the legislation. There'll be no action on that legislation. It'll actually pass through the committee with basically an affirmative or a negative recommendation. With that, Mr. Chairman, that is a brief summary of each rule change in this packet. I'll be glad to take any questions the committee has.
All right, I had Representative Hakeem first, and I think Leader Camper had something. Representative Hakeem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe it's just a point of clarification for me, but on number 4, order in gallery or lobby, we don't already have this in place. I mean, if someone is disorderly or something like that, the speaker can ask that they be removed.
Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have, the speaker does have the ability to remove someone, but there's no ability to prevent them if they continue to be unruly on subsequent legislative days or come back the same day and get removed again. They could do that as many times as they feel necessary. There's no rule in place right now that wouldn't allow them to return if they can't recognize the rules of decorum in the gallery.
Representative Hakeem.
Question on 83. Does this provide citizens an opportunity to know how we vote on something?
Representative Hakeem, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, by voting by the machine, how do citizens know how we vote?
Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to make sure I understand your question, okay? So when there's final action on a piece of legislation in front of a committee, it'll actually be up on the board, like the board behind me, your vote. So when the final action takes place, the chairman decides to call the vote, you all call the vote, you will most likely have a pin that you will enter into that microphone's display. So that display will know who you are, and you will have something that will come up. In fact, there's training. It's going to take place on this, I think tomorrow and the next day, to let you know how to vote. When you vote, your vote will be displayed, it's my understanding, on the boards, like at the committee rooms, like the one behind me. So certainly the public will be able to know those votes. And I would remind you that the public does know your votes. They're actually displayed on our website and committee votes as well. But this will be immediate because it'll pop up just like it does on the House chamber.
All right.
And gentlemen, if I may, my understanding is that that will be part of the feed that is out public as well on the website.
Mhm.
And so that will flash to that just like it does on the House floor. So it almost mimic exactly what happens on the House floor.
Thank you.
So Representative King, any additional questions or comments?
Well, just going back to number 4, I don't know. It's if a person hasn't been physically I guess, disorderly? I mean, are we saying that there's no form of disapproval that's allowed within the chamber? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Representative Garrett.
Representative, I hope you would have an opportunity to visit the House of Representatives of Congress in DC. In Congress in DC, you actually have several points of entry of security before you can even get in the chamber. You cannot wear a hat. You cannot prop your feet up on any type of ledge. You cannot speak. You cannot do anything that would disrupt the proceedings inside our U.S. House of Representatives, whether that is physical, whether that is vocal, or whether that is
We've seen
anything that would draw attention to yourself, that draws attention away from the business of the people that we try to do on the House floor here at the Capitol. So it can be a number of things that would be disruptive. And there's several things that I know you've witnessed in the past several years since you and I have come in that would be disruptive to the business of the House. If that happens and continues to happen, those people shouldn't be allowed to disrupt the people of Tennessee's business as we try to do it on the floor of the House. If currently the speaker decides to let someone leave because they can't sit there and observe the work of the people, the speaker certainly has the authority under this rule now to say that person cannot come back, because that person would not understand how to follow the rules of decorum and let the business of Tennessee happen without being so disruptive. That's what Rule 4 intends to do, is to make sure you and I, everyone that can hear my voice, can work together and make sure we do the business of the people that we were elected to do. People seem to have issues with doing that when they sit in the House gallery and other places that doesn't want the business of the House to continue. So we have to have rules in place to make sure that we can do that.
Thank you, Representative Garrett. Representative Keene.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it's been demonstrated that the representatives, there are representatives who feel that they are not being heard or afforded the opportunity to express themselves because of the limitations by some rules we have in place. And I think what you're also saying, that people in the gallery, if they see this and they are disturbed by what they see, that they don't have a voice. They either sit there or get out, so to speak. I'm asking a question.
Representative Garrett.
I'm not sure if that was a statement or a question, but I know as a lawyer, if I'm sitting in a courtroom, that I'm under particular rules, that I can say things where I'm supposed to, or I can say things when I'm not supposed to. Courts in the state of Tennessee are wide open. You and I can walk in any court and observe, but we do not have a constitutional right to scream bloody murder inside of a courtroom before that judge would slap us with contempt and throw us in jail. We do not have that right to do that. We all have phone numbers. We all have emails. We all have ways that we can be contacted and met with and told to us by our constituents and all Tennesseans what they like and what they dislike. I would say to you that you know good and well, just like I do, that a time on the House floor when we're doing the people's business, screaming at anyone from a balcony like that does absolutely nothing to forward anyone's cause. What would forward someone's cause is discussions between us all. Discussions that we can have with anyone that I know you would have, and I know probably any member of this committee would have, but we cannot have those discussions, those that want to yell, those that want to interrupt, and we can't get the business that the people elected us to do when we're on the House floor.
Just one final comment, if I
Sorry,
may.
Representative Keene,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. I hear what you say, but I think in your explanation, what was left out is that if representatives feel their voice is not being heard, if they are not able to represent their constituents, I think I'm hearing that there's no displeasure that should be expressed. In a sense of speaking, you just take what's been given to you. And I guess it sounds like, again, those who have the power make the rules, and as opposed to a voice being given to the representatives. And if the representatives can't be heard, if they can't express themselves, and then the people are being put out, who are you listening to? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make those comments.
Thank you. And if there's Anything else, Representative King?
No, sir. No,
If
sir.
not, I have Leader Camper up next. Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it's taken me a while to digest all of the changes, so I'm try to get to them. And I may have to hope and pray that another member have a question where I can go and look and continue to read. Representative, on number 4, when you say the person will be removed and they can't come back the next day, are you saying the next legislative day? What are you talking about there?
Representative Garrett.
Thank you for that question, that clarification. Yes, it would be the next legislative day. So for example, if it would happen on a Thursday when we would be in session,
Mhm.
someone would be removed from the gallery. They would not be able to return that Thursday, and they would not be able to come Monday if we had the next legislative day on Monday while we were in session. Would not affect their ability to visit the Capitol, come to their Capitol just like they were if they're a citizen. But while we're in session, they would not be allowed to be in the gallery.
Okay.
Leader Camper.
Did you need clarity on that?
No, I'm fine. I have a question.
Oh, okay, thanks. On 19, you mentioned stop, either sit down and or stop the unruly behavior. So if they sit down, they stop, we just proceed on, is what you're getting at there.
Representative Garrett, and thank you for waiting on me, sir. I apologize. Go right ahead.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make sure I understand your questions. So it takes, for the new language,
Mhm.
takes several steps to get there, which is the current 113th rule, right? If they're called out of order, they just can't speak for the rest of the day. That's all. If they're called again on the same legislative day, they can still speak, but they can't speak. They can only speak. It gets reduced down to 2 minutes. Those steps still have to apply. If they're under that same restriction and it's the same legislative day and they continue to get called out of order under Rule 19, that's when they can be removed. They wouldn't be able to do any business. They'd be able to vote that day, right? If this happened on the day that the Rule 19 is being violated, the remote voting wouldn't take place until the next legislative day for 3 days. But they've got to continue to violate under Rule 19 3 or 4 times before it gets to that point where they would only be allowed to vote by remote means.
Leader Camper. Or Leader Camper, I do have Representative Shaw on the list. If you'd like me to go to Representative Shaw and then come back.
Well, let me, no.
Nope, Leader Camper.
So how does the removal to a remote location, how would that work?
Representative Garrett.
That's a good question. What will happen? Now, I'm not sure which particular committee room, but if the chair will give me a little latitude, I would assume you use this one as an example.
Mhm.
This committee room would basically be an extension of the House. It'd be set up where the person, subject to Rule 19, if it gets this far, will be able to be set up here and vote remotely and watch session just like you would from a live feed. So they would be watching from here. This room would be secured just like the House floor would be, and they would be able to exercise the reason why they were elected to vote in a secured location like a committee room like this.
They will be ordered
Leader
to that
Camp.
room. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will be ordered to that room. You can't be on the floor anymore. We got to remove you. You're ordered to House hearing room 2 for the remainder of that legislative day, or if it's several days. And in there, will they be able to participate? They can vote, they can push a button and speak, or how would that part work?
Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right now, under Rule 19, they would not be, even if they were inside the chamber,
Mhm.
if they got to this point for the remote voting, they would not be recognized because they've already violated Rule 19 several times. They would still be able to participate, just like voting and whatnot, but they would not be able to be recognized if they asked the speaker to recognize them. So the only thing that's happening since the next legislative day, it won't be the day that Rule 19 was violated, it'll be the next 3 legislative days, they will have an opportunity That opportunity is voluntary. They won't be ordered here. They won't be made to come here. It'll be up to them that no one is removing their ability to vote on legislation, on resolutions, etc. They have their own ability, whether or not they choose to violate Rule 19 and subject themselves to the option of coming to a committee room and voting remotely. So their ability to vote is not removed under 19. So they would order themselves here and nobody else.
All right, Leader Camper.
But the speaker or the body shall provide an opportunity for them to come to said room. Correct?
Leader Camper, that's a
That's a-
question. All right, Representative
No,
Garrett.
I'm saying is that we should make it available to them, whether they come or not, is what you're saying.
Representative Garrett.
It will absolutely be made available to them whether they come or not.
And Leader Camper, additional follow-up, or I have Representative Shaw next.
No, I not on that particular one, but I have another question.
Please, Leader Camper.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to understand 21 on the time limits of debate and the 2 minutes coming out of the response. Can you practically tell me how you see that working?
Representative Garrett.
Sure. For instance, if I'm in the well, like right now, and I am presenting a piece of legislation, and you want to be recognized to ask me a question. If I didn't take the entire 3 minutes or the entire 5 minutes, there's still time left. It comes to you. You have 5 minutes to ask your entire question. Whether you immediately ask that question and it takes 30 seconds, or you have some comments to say beforehand and it takes the full 5 minutes. If I have none of my 5 minutes left to respond to your question, my full 5 minutes are gone. I get additional 2 minutes to respond to your question. We are doing that now. We did that in the 113th. We just did not have it prescribed in the rules, but it was the practice. And so we've been doing that. We're just making it part of the rules. I hope I answered that question.
Leader
correctly.
Camper, anything additional at this point? All right.
I think I understand that one.
You got a couple
Somebody
more?
else
All
got
right, go
another
right
one? You
ahead.
can
Yes,
come back to
please.
me if
Please
somebody
go ahead,
else-
Leader
okay,
Camper.
All right, so on 44 under D subparagraph 1, where we are reducing the 15 to 12. So in the first legislative year, like now, we will be reduced to 12.
Look, I didn't touch you. Mine wasn't working either, but try it
Okay.
again there. All right,
There
the
we
red
go.
light's on.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
All right.
I was sitting here innocently. I didn't touch a button. Go ahead.
So the first legislative year of this General Assembly, you'll have 12. We have 12. And then next year, when we come back in this same General Assembly, we'll have 10. Is that what you're saying here?
Representative Garrett.
Okay. And the standing committee chairs will have 5, and the subcommittee chairs will have 2 additional. And the question is that in both annual legislative years? So each year they will still continue to get 5, although everyone else will be reduced to 10. Is that what this is saying?
Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I was following into your last.
Yeah, the mics all turned off a
They're-
second ago.
they did.
I don't,
Can
I
y'all
don't
hear
know if
me?
they timed out on committee. We've been here 2
my
hours,
committee
but
time was out.
look, we're still going, so the mics are still
Okay.
going,
My
but you
red
might have
light
to hit
is
them
on, so I
again.
assume you all can hear me. Is it
You're
good?
good, Representative
Okay.
Garrett.
Leader Camper, yes, you would have the 10 as a non-committee chairman or a non-subcommittee chairman for the second half of the 114th General Assembly. And the chairman and the subcommittee chairman's additional bills would be the same for that second half of the 114th General Assembly. They
Okay.
would get 2 additional and then 5 additional.
Okay. In
Leader
each,
Camper.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, in each year.
Yes.
is what they're saying. Okay. And so if we have already filed 15, that's what we were working under. Should this be adopted? Member was working on the assumption we had 15. We filed all our 15 bills. This rule is going to take place this year, let's say. The member would have to go through and say, hey, I need to take these 3 out, da, 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 da. And if they don't, by, I guess the said bill filing deadline, the last 3 would be automatically removed. Is that what we're saying for the record?
Representative Garrett.
You've demonstrated the process perfectly. Yes. So if the member files, for example, only has 15, well, let's use the new limit, 12, non-chairman, non-committee chairman. You filed 15 bills. You can either choose what 3 you would want the House to be removed from the House and committee, or it'll be the last 3 filed will be removed on your behalf as violating this particular rule 44 of the House rules because you're over that limit. So you can choose.
Yeah, and it'll have to be before. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And if we can, we move on. I got a few more folks on the list. So
That's why I was asking if you wanted me to do all my, okay. Because this is comprehensive and we got to vote on all of it, not individually. So that's why I'm trying to
totally
get them
understand,
all
Leader
in.
Camper. Just
Okay,
if you
all right,
can.
Mr. Chairman, on, I guess we're in the same section. The last item K was added. Subparagraph K. Are we still on? Yeah.
So Leader Camper, I'm going to wait for you to finish
Sorry,
there with the question, and then I'll go back to Representative Garrett. So,
Okay,
Leader Camper.
under 44, we added on the D3 subparagraph K. We look like we added here that the constitutional officers are limited to 10 per annual session. We're giving them 10, so it'll be 20 per General Assembly, so to speak.
Representative Garrett.
Thank you. And Leader Camper, thank you for pointing that out. In my brief summation, I left out
Yeah.
number K. If you have a bill from the constitutional officers, our comptroller, our treasurer, or our secretary of state, those bills that you file will not count
There you go.
against the bill limit. They have a limit, though, that would fall under the rule. So if, and I'm just going to use this example, Secretary of State wanted to file 13 bills, and he was over his limit, those 3 bills after the limit's reached would count against that member's limit of 12 bills.
Leader Camper.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was somewhere else. I did not
Okay.
get that at all. I thought you were going to say something else there. Are you saying that in my 12, the constitutional officers have 10, they may want me to carry 3 of them. They count in my 12.
Now, Leader Camper, if I may, let me jump in. It's the opposite. It wouldn't count towards your 12. So the constitutional
So
officers,
what
a
he
lot of
said
times
didn't make sense
they'll
at
ask
the
freshman
end.
members many times to carry bills, and those wouldn't count toward their 12. Most of the time, quite frankly, the Secretary of State, Comptroller, and the
Yeah.
Treasurer in our time down here will bring bills that are truly clean up,
Yeah.
kind of fix it bills, and those would not count toward the members' 12.
Okay.
That's more as us in the legislature doing a favor to the
Yeah.
constitutional officers because they've found bills that do need to be changed. And some of their bills are heavy in substance, but a vast majority of them, they've gone into the code and really just kind of tweaked some things to be tweaked. So those would not count toward the 12, is my understanding.
Then I didn't
Representative
understand
Garrett,
his
let me
last
just to be
comment.
recognized.
Let me clarify that, Leader Camper. If the Secretary of State has already given 10 bills to members, Secretary of State has reached his 10 bill limit. If he needs an 11th bill filed and he comes to Representative Garrett, my office, and says, I've got to file 1 bill, I'm 1 over and I've got a spot, that 1 bill will count against my 12 bill. Yes, my 12 bill limit, because the Secretary of State is over his 10 bill limit allotted amount. Good question. Thank you for that.
At this point, anybody else seek to be? I had Representative Shaw on the list. Do you wish to still be recognized, sir?
I do, sir.
Yes, sir. Representative Shaw.
Thank you very kindly. I want to go back to rule number 4, item 4, which is the order of the gallery and lobby, I believe. want to go back to that. I just want to make sure that I'm clear, because when you talk about being out of order, you know, that's a broad statement, but at the same time, I realize it entails people's actions, all of those things. But here's a, for instance, this cell phone is covered black, and we discovered, and I put the bill in, that I want it to be black, or you put it in, and we discussing this. Am I out of order when I say, Mr. Chairman, I think you are wrong to want this cell phone to be any other color than black? Is that out of order?
Representative Garrett, if you could answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe I can answer that question. I'm not really sure in what particular hypothetical that you're talking about. But let me do this to see if this helps. While me personally standing here does not have any problem with what color your cell phone is, and have absolutely no issues with what that would be, would not certainly rise to any level of being out of order, I believe, at any. You have the ability to choose whatever color you want your cell phone to be. But what the rule says is when any person in the gallery attempts to attract attention of anyone on the floor by word, deed, or otherwise, or when any person in the gallery engages in conduct or commits any action deemed by the speaker to be detrimental to the order of the business of the House, what color your cell phone is certainly not detrimental to the orderly fashion or business of the House. Such person shall be removed from the gallery pursuant to the instructions from the speaker. So I don't believe that what your example is rises to the level of anything that would be detrimental to the orderly business of the House.
And gentlemen, if I may, this is for the observation gallery. This is not for the floor. I mean, this is for our guests that are in the observation gallery to be able to observe, not to participate. Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. But I think it does make my point, because my point is I'm trying to get us to what's really out of order and what's in order. By the same token, if I say, you know, you're a knucklehead because you don't want this, then I'm out of order.
Representative Garrett.
And Representative Shaw, you've been here. I have great respect for you for a very, very long time. And whether we are in a committee or whether we are on the floor of the House, the chairman determines what is out of order and what's not in order. And when we're on the House of the floor, the speaker determines, or the speaker pro tem, if he has to be acting before the speaker decides what is in order and what is out of order. But I would still ask you, not necessarily to tell me what it is, but what conduct would be detrimental to the orderly business of the House. That's the key word. What is detrimental? There are many things that could be. And I think me and you both know when we see it, that's what it is. It could be detrimental to the orderly business of the House. The speaker is the one who makes that call.
And I would agree with you on that.
Representative Shaw, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we understand what's in order and what's out of order, because I have been here a long time. And it's one thing I know for sure, and I'll be very brief. This calls for an attitude adjustment. I don't get everything I want, but I still have a responsibility to the people that sent me here. Thank you.
I have Leader Camper again for a follow-up question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, we did not get to look at standing committee section 65. At the very bottom, is some language been changed on the designees. This is basically saying that the pro tem and the leaders can have a designee, but those people have to be appointed by the speaker versus the leader or the leaders deciding who their designee would be. Is that correct?
Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Make
Yes,
it
that's
short.
correct.
Make it short.
It,
Okay.
it now becomes a designee that's appointed by the speaker.
Okay. All right. Any additional questions or debate? All right, seeing none, previous question has been called. Members, we will be voting on this package by Representative Garrett, the combined rules package here that he has submitted. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay? No. The ayes have it. That passes. I now would recognize Chairman Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Oh, thank you, Representative Garrett. Chairman Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the changes to the temporary rules of order to the 114th General Assembly as adopted by this committee be submitted to the House as a report of the Select Committee on Rules in order to establish permanent rules of order for the House of Representatives for the 114th General Assembly.
Thank you, Chairman. That has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. If you would like to be recorded as a no, please let the clerk know. All right, members, we have been at it for about 2 hours plus, 2 hours and 15, something like that. So thank you for your diligent work on this. Thank you for all y'all that hung in there with us in the crowd here. With that, we stand adjourned.